most people, when they umpire, they either love it or they hate it. There's not too much in between. I don't know about you, Matthias, but if you love it, you're going to keep pursuing it. Then it becomes a passion, and then it becomes this sport within a sport. It becomes the third team and a game within a game, and it becomes a lifestyle. You just constant pursuit of excellence and perfection.
Yeah, thanks for tuning into the Baseball Europe podcast, and we've got a bit of a coup for us today. We're going to be interviewing Ted Barrett, who is an MLB umpire of very high repute and has done baseball umpiring for a number of years. And I found the funnest fact, which I'm sure everybody will give you when they first start interviewing you, is you're the only home plate umpire to umpire 2 perfect games, right?
That's true. Yes, I feel like I struck lightning in a bottle twice.
That's pretty crazy. That's absolutely pretty crazy. So, I can hear somebody in the background now. That was you, Matthias. You're responsible. So, yeah. So you've been behind the plate for two perfect games. Does it feel different in the moment when you're in a game like that, or are you just so focused that you only realize that it's significant after, like when you're really in the game?
Definitely during the game, you are so focused that you're not sure what's going on. I know in the first game, it was David Cohn in Yankee Stadium in 1999. And as the game wore on, I remember looking up at the board and seeing there was no hits, but I couldn't remember if there was a walk or a double play because I knew he was facing the minimum. And you truly do get that locked in. So when the game was over, I knew it was a no hitter, but I had to ask my partner, Chuck Merriweather, I said, was that a perfect game? He said, yeah, it was. But then in 2012, about the fourth, fifth inning, Matt Cain was throwing the ball really well. And I looked up and I knew in that moment it was a perfect game. So from that point on, yeah, it was in the front of my mind.
Yeah. So are you more locked in at that point? Does your heartbeat start going up, or?
Yeah, there's so much pressure in every major league game, and today more so than ever. But it's interesting because the players take on this attitude of there's just a different air about what's going on, and they become very nervous. They become very focused. There's no small talk. There's no little side looks or glances. They are serious business because in a no hitter, you can afford to get a ball and make an error because the no hitter's still intact. But the perfect game. So for the players, they don't want to be the one that costs the pitcher a perfect game. And so being behind the plate, it's a double-edged sword. If I were to call a strike that was a ball, they're going to look at it and go, well, look, this guy didn't really deserve it. But if you're to call a ball a strike and then you miss a strike 3 and the guy gets a base hit or a ball 4. But even if you look at the Galarraga in 2010 with Jim Joyce at first base, it was a perfect storm. It was 2 outs up top of the ninth, 1 out away from a perfect game, and you have a missed call, which cost him the perfect game. So those things are kind of in your mind as it's happening.
Yeah. All eyes become on you at that point as well, and you don't want to really make a mistake.
Yes.
So an incredible feat, and to do it twice is amazing. But you're not over here in Europe calling perfect games. You're over here running an umpire workshop. Tell us a little bit about that. Is this a passion project of yours, or how do you get involved with this?
Well, I've got my good friend Michael Johnstone's here playing, and he's been inviting me over, and so I'm glad I finally was able to work it out where my wife and I could come, and of course, any chance I get to travel and see the world, I take advantage of it if I can. And Austria is so wonderful, and so many people told me so many great things about it, and it lived up to its hype. But also, I think umpiring is a passion, and it's also a fraternity. It's a brotherhood, especially at the major league level. There's 76 of us, and there's 71 retired living umpires, and so we're a small club, about 150 minor league guys, and I've done things
insane
before.
when you think about it, isn't it? That's so crazy how small a number it is. I mean, there's almost more astronauts than MLB umpires,
Right? And this blew my mind. I saw a statistic where I think there's something like 24,000 major league players to have at least one at bat or throw one pitch in Major League Baseball would fill half a stadium in the States, right? But there's only been 401 full-time Major League umpires since the first pitch was thrown in 1880, whenever it was, which really that blew my mind.
Yeah,
There's
that's
been
an
certainly
insane
more.
stat.
Yeah, you look at the history of it. Actually, some of the pitchers used to umpire on the bases, and there was only one guy. But the way it's evolved into. But we do a lot of exchange things with the Japanese. They'll come over and train with us. The Korean umpires. I've worked some WBC, but working the WBC. I think in 2009, I was a crew chief with a Panamanian, two Koreans, and I think someone from Spain. And 2013, I got to work the championship. We had a Czech umpire with the Panamanian guy again, a Canadian, and for them it was. I've had the pleasure of working World Series and things like that, but for them, this was their World Series to work a WBC final, and I just really I saw the joy they were getting out of it. So a few years ago, I was able to go visit Simon Gehring in Germany, and was able some umpires heard I was there, and they came over to where we were doing some baseball activities, and they were like, "Hey, we'd love to learn from you," and they were just so open minded and appreciative. So being here in Austria, we've got guys coming out and just hearing that I'm here and coming by for a clinic, and it's been wonderful. Just being able to share the things that I've learned and also learning from each other and having a good time doing it.
And obviously, the game in the States is huge. Over here, it's more of a curiosity to those that don't play it. We're the players that play it. We're passionate about it. But what do you see as the strengths of some European umpiring, and where's the blind spots? When you come over here, you're like, oh wow, these guys don't know that or don't see that, or you're surprised by.
Yeah, I think most of us umpiring in the States, we grew up in the game, from a small child. And I think here, a lot of the game is foreign to them, um, can have its advantages. They've got no bad habits coming in, with not a lot of experience. I think one of the biggest challenges here in Austria is the actual lack of games. And so the umpires, as they go through a season, I think they were telling me that 30 games would be a full season. Well, in the States, and I'm working 30 games in spring training.
Yeah, yeah.
In umpiring, there's no real way to practice it. You actually have to do it on the field. So spring training for us is always kind of practice as we get ready for the season for when it counts. They don't have the ability to do that. The lack of repetition, I think, puts them pretty far behind. So I'm trying to introduce some drills that will help to maybe closely replicate a game experience. So maybe they can get some more repetitions and build their skills up. And the other thing is, in professional baseball, you go to umpire school, which is like a big tryout, and then you go to the lowest level of the minor leagues. And similar to the National Hockey League, where you advance through the minor league system, as your skills progress, the speed increases. And then,
Mm.
from AAA to the big leagues, it's like a quantum leap. And the umpires that can make that leap themselves with their skills will be successful. And I think here, they don't have they might go right to the Bundesliga and you go get them. They don't have the ability to build their skills up to a level where they're ready
Yeah.
for that. So
And that's interesting. So bring Matthias in on this one, because Matthias, actually, you do umpire games. Did you go through the qualifications as well?
Yeah, I'm just a softball umpire, and I can really relate to you, Ted, as I'm just able to umpire like 4 to 6 games complete season. So it's just on this lowest level. And as you know, the umpiring on the lowest level is mostly more complicated than with experienced players, because there is just insane stuff happening on the field. So
yeah,
what do you think about the umpiring in Europe? Is that more challenging because the game is not that well known also to the players?
yeah. I think the players at the highest level play a clean game, but I think at the lower levels it might be more akin to a lower level, maybe a junior varsity baseball game in high school. And you're right, that's when the umpiring gets complicated because I go to my grandson's baseball games and the third baseman gets a ground ball and he throws it to left field, or you can't really anticipate the baseball. But in the major leagues, 2 outs, ground ball, the runners are going. They all know they're throwing to first base. I can move over there and get ready for that call. Uh, but at the lower levels, you don't know where the throw's going, or so that can create a play where you're not in position. Um, but I think I haven't really seen the level of play here because the guys are. I haven't watched the game, but in Germany, I was impressed with the umpires because they had quite a few guys that had been to training in the States, and they were then back giving training. And I think here in Austria, we've got a couple guys that have been to umpire school, and we've got another guy that's going to go. So those are the guys that can usually come back and help train new guys and younger guys. And it's one thing that, like with you, Matthias, I think sometimes the guys that play, it's almost like they get forced into, like you have to umpire. And, so
Yeah, you in a club you need to provide a specific amount of umpires so that you get a license. So that's really needed here in Germany, and I think it's the same in Austria. So every club is forced to provide umpires. And
you think, yeah,
you,
you think about this.
Go
I'm
on.
sorry. Yeah. No, it's it almost like you guys are sitting around the club and you say, oh, we need someone to clean the toilet, and we need someone to mow the grass, and we need someone to umpire. And it's like nobody wants to do any of those, right? But whereas in the States, I mean, we have hundreds of guys every year just trying to get into professional baseball. And there is a shortage, though, we have in the States, and I'm sure it's the same thing here, of young kids. We're trying to get youth involved in officiating of all sports. And I'm not sure about here, but I know in the States it's teachers and police officers and authority figures. It's changed. They don't get as much respect. And so we have young guys try umpiring, and we train them and we take them out on the field, and they get yelled at by moms and dads and coaches. And so they're like, I'm not doing this.
And that's the thing for me today. Like, so I'm a soccer background, so I've been a referee on the soccer field, and you're refereeing kids, and the kids are jipping you off and giving you hell for the decisions. And when I was a kid, I was doing the same. Like, refereeing is a thankless task, and the appreciation for those refs sometimes come sparingly, particularly if they've refed you a bad game and you feel hard done by, and then you go and pick up your, I think it's what, like €10 for an entire afternoon's work. It's a contribution. It's not pay.
Right.
What would you say to those people? What do you get out of umpiring that you think somebody else could get? Like, why should I umpire? Because I only hear the nightmares about parents yelling at me.
Yeah, that's a great question. Why would someone do that, right? And I don't think anybody was ever born and as a young kid said, I'm going to grow up and be a major league umpire, right? And I joke that no dad ever lit up a cigar, or this is my son, and one day he's going to be a fine major league umpire. But it's something that I kind of fell into. I was playing other sports, and I started doing it for money, and just for spending money, and was led to umpire school, which led to the minor leagues. But the thing is, most people, when they umpire, they either love it or they hate it. There's not too much in between. I don't know about you, Matthias, but if you love it, you're going to keep pursuing it. Then it becomes a passion, and then it becomes this sport within a sport. It becomes the third team and a game within a game, and it becomes a lifestyle. It's just constant pursuit of excellence and perfection. So we have this drive. They say it's the only profession where you have to start out perfect and get better. There's this drive for perfection that you never obtain. I mean, I've worked 3,400 regular season games plus postseason, and I never found that perfection behind the plate. There's always something, but we keep driving for it. And so there's this inner drive and this inner satisfaction that you get from a job well done, and a challenge to always do your best, and knowing that you're never going to get any praise, right? Maybe from the winning team, they're happy with you, great job, but the losing team, they're blaming you, right? So you block all that out, And you just have this feeling inside you and your crew. The major league's a 4-man crew, the minor league's a 2-man crew. That is you and your partner against the world, and let's go out and do this impossible task, and let's do the best we can. And so, yeah, I'm sure this sounds awful to someone who's never done it, but at the same time, it's wonderful for those of us that do it.
So that's a great soundbite, Ted. That's I already can see that. Go ahead, Matthias.
Just to go in, because you asked what I get out of it. Most of the times, it's the only way to get that close to a game. So you're part of the game and you see every pitch. And I personally, I forget which team is in the offense and the defense at that moment. I'm just focused on each play, and I enjoy it because you don't get any closer than that instead of playing. And then you're not concentrated on all what's happening on the field, just your little part of it. And that's what I like about it, and especially with younger teams where we discussed it already, where funny stuff happens. But as I'm just doing it, very seldomly over the season, do you have an advice how to really get a very good zone and to get fast into your zone, that the strikes are really strikes and not miscalled balls?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that you can do is to really get some instruction on how to work a good stance. And if you've got no one that can teach you, there's materials on the website you can get on. There's some good teaching out there, but getting in position to see the ball the best you can, that's the first thing, and that makes a big difference. And then there's little things like things of the trade that we talk about, and that's head height, making sure you're above the catcher's head, tracking, making sure you're tracking the ball all the way into the glove with your eyes, timing, not calling it too quick, letting the pitch come to you. But then there's also little things between pitches, relaxing, forgetting about the past, forget about the last pitch, concentrate on the next pitch. Um, I would hate to send somebody out there and say, here's a chest protector and a mask, go umpire, with no training, because it would be like, where do I stand? Where do I look? And how do these pitches are breaking and they're moving? And so there's little things I would teach someone is don't move your head, because your head's like a camera on a stand, and just move your eyes but keep your head steady. So a moving camera would make a blurry picture. So all these things that you can learn and teach yourself, that's going to give you the chance to succeed. But there's also, it's like playing baseball, right? There's some guys that can pitch, some guys have a great swing, you can develop it, but a lot of it comes naturally too. So I think it's the same with good umpires. There's just this umpire gene that some of us are born with, and we're blessed with, that we can do it, where others, it's as much as they try and work at it, they don't succeed.
And in Europe here, I think we're going to be shielded from this for a long time, but the talk at the moment is the robo umps, the ABS, everybody having an opinion and trying to make this black or white. I can see it works in games like tennis. It's not executed very well in soccer, for instance. But what's your opinions on that? And also, what does the general public, when they're shouting at you from the stands, what do you think they don't understand about calling the zone?
So with the strike zone in particular, first the ABS, you talked about that. In 2014, we had instant replay come in, and I was kind of at the forefront of the implementation of that. And I didn't think it was going to work very well. Of course, we wanted to be able to stop things like the Jim Joyce call with the perfect game, and going back to the 1985, the Don Denkinger play in St. Louis with Kansas City. As umpires, we don't want to have plays named after us. So replay kind of helped that. It could fix the egregious call, but it created problems that we didn't anticipate, right? Where players sliding in and breaking contact with the base, and what is actually an out, what's actually a safe at first base, slowing it down, freezing it. So every time you fix something, you kind of create another problem. And there's anticipating what could go wrong with the ABS. Yes, it's going to eliminate the egregious strike or ball call that could be fixed and reversed. They've got it to where it's pretty quick now. I've watched it in AAA the last couple of years. I watched it just last week in the Arizona Fall League, and um, I think I'm anxious to see as they roll it out. They tried it in spring training last year.
Is it a good thing?
It's funny because I never liked change, but a lot of things that MLB has put in, it seemed to work, and so we'll see how this works. The only negative thing I can see is it's not as accurate as they sell it to be,
Mm.
and so it's close, but like when you're talking about centimeters, is close good enough, right? So uh, it's going to fix the big miss, the pitch that far outside that the umpire called a strike. But what about that pitch that the umpire called a strike? So there's a margin of error with with this technology. Will a ball that's called a ball actually be turned to a strike when it's not? Will a strike actually be turned to a ball? But all that's going to be seen and play out. We'll see how the players react to it. The umpires are ready.
Mm.
I'm amazed with Major League umpires how we make things happen. We took the speed up rules, which ended up being a very good thing.
I
And
really like that. I'm actually a newly converted baseball fan, so I've only actually been involved in the game about 4 years. I did some work in the States. I worked for the U.S. military and was over at Fort Meade for like 5 weeks, and went to the Orioles game not knowing what was happening, no idea what was going on the whole game. But the atmosphere of the ballpark and just being there, I'd say it was a wonderful experience. And that the season I got into it was the last season with no pitch clock. So for me, I was like, oh, this is going to be a hard slog. But I think with the pitch clock, I'm all in now. I watch games that don't even involve the Orioles. Like I'm a complete baseball convert. But yes, and I guess selfishly, this is less a bit about umpiring, but I'm very curious as to some of the biggest personalities in the games that you've had to umpire. Who's like the most respectful, and then who's the most disrespectful? Let's have something juicy.
Well, of all time, there's been some great superstars that are very respectful, like Ken Griffey Jr. You go to a current guy like Paul Goldschmidt. These type of guys are just very. I like the guys that play with a lot of joy. I was talking to Michael earlier, and there's a lot of major league players that you look at them, and they're making millions of dollars. They're playing a child's game, and they're absolutely miserable. And
Yeah.
you want to just shake them and say, you've never had to work a day in your life. Not that baseball's not work, but you should be so thankful for what you have, and yet they're not. And then you've got other guys that they show up to the ballpark with a big smile on their face, and whether they go 0 for 4 or 4 for 4, they're playing with joy. Of course, they want to win, and they're upset when they're not, but they're like, okay, we've got another game tomorrow, let's go. And so those are the players I like, and I've seen a lot of them. Too many to name. If you ask me about one in particular, I could tell you one way or another. Ken Griffey Jr. stands out to me as kind of an all-time great, good guy and a tremendous player. The guys that I was amazed with was like a Bo Jackson when I first came up. Such a great athlete. Mark McGuire was impressive. I would sometimes get to a game before and I'd go out and watch him take batting practice. I mean, it would, and not that it's funny when you become an umpire, you're no longer a fan of the game. And I wasn't. The only reason I would watch a game is if I had a friend working. But once in a while on the field, there was sometimes that wow moment, like, this is cool that we're here
That was
watching it.
I've got two questions left for you, and the first one ties really nicely into that. What are the perks of being an MLB umpire that people might not know about?
Well, it pays really well at major league level. We don't make what the players make, but we make quite a living. Staying in nice hotels and flying. We get to fly first class, which in the minor leagues we drove our cars around and
Right.
really made it from city to city, so we paid the dues. So a nice perk is airline frequent flyer miles and hotels getting points. So, but my family seemed to spend my miles as soon as I got them. But uh, the the conditions in the minor leagues are getting better. But when I was there, it was very poor. You might get a hot dog and a beer after a game if the team won. If they lost, you didn't get anything. Uh, but now at the major league level, we are well taken care of. We have beautiful locker rooms. We have a clubhouse personnel that are dedicated to our needs. In the minor leagues, we would have to drag our gear from city to city. In the big leagues, we take our clothes off, we put them in the laundry, and we leave when we fly to the next city, and those our bags are magically transported to the next city. By we get there, they're already hanging up, dry cleaned, pressed. We have a pre-game meal prepared for us. The game's over. We have a nice post-game meal prepared for us, and in a nice facility to do it in. And then we go to our nice hotel and get some rest and come back the next day and do it again. So there are a lot of perks.
So it does make the people shouting at you from the stands worth it. Then it balances out a little.
Absolutely, it makes it tolerable, and it's. I know when fans yell, it never bothered me. In the minor leagues, it was when there's a sparse crowd, you can really hear that one loudmouth, and you just, it sometimes would get under your skin. But in the big leagues, when there's 50,000 people, it's more of just a buzz. You can't really hear those people yell too often. You hear them boo, but also we know that's part of the fan experience. Right? You go to an Orioles game, you're rooting for the Orioles, and if a call goes against them, you're booing. It's the way it is. And I wanted to say one more thing about the ABS. It's concerning with baseball. When replay came in, there was no longer any arguments, plays on the bases, because the players just looked in the dugout to see if they wanted to challenge or not. And I wonder if that's going to decrease the amount of arguments with ABS as they just challenge it. So there might be less ejections, less nose to nose arguments. And is that good for the game or not? I don't know, because I hate to lose that element.
Yeah, that is the fun part. Like, especially when they send the manager off, and the manager's just like, "Well, I'm just going to get my 2 pennies worth now and go
Yeah.
for it." Yeah, yeah. Are you going to say something, Matthias?
Yeah, what you just said, Ted. I have a question concerning the loudness in the stadium. Is it very difficult for you as a crew to communicate with each other when there are 50,000 people in the stands?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you get into a domed environment, with some of the domes that we have, it becomes deafening, especially in the World Series where they're screaming every pitch. So we use a lot of hand signals, a lot of hand signals, a lot of eye contact. It's interesting too. When I was in the minor leagues, they trained us we call a play at first base. You actually look at the bag and you listen to the foot hitting the bag and you listen to the ball going into the mitt. It makes two distinct sounds, and that helped you gather you're looking and you're listening, and then you take that information and make your call. So I remember the first time I was working in the Seattle Kingdom and it was a sellout crowd, and there's a play at first, and I didn't hear anything. So that's not a good feeling. And you'll even see in World Series games and things like that where first base umpires sometimes do miss the call because they don't have the sound. But replay will help us get that right.
And this is another question that's come from those questions. So I still have 2 more questions for you. But this one is just a personal interest. You say you're listening to the sounds and you're watching. When the umpire at the bases take 3-4 seconds to play it, to give the call, the out or the safe, what's going through the mind? What are they doing there? Because I've always wondered that.
Yeah, so that's what we call timing and umpiring, and we're constantly trying to slow our timing down, because the natural reaction is to get caught up in the play and the excitement and the noise and the it's a big play of the game. So we try to stay completely relaxed and focused so we can make this decision. So we're listening, we're watching, and a lot of times we see what we see, we hear what we hear, but we take our time then to replay in our mind what happened. It's like you're making sure, okay, this is what I saw, this is what I heard. Now I'm making my call out. Those are things that are going through your mind. When you get caught up in the moment, when you get caught up in the magnitude of the game, and you don't slow down, that's when mistakes happen. Or I've had it where I've mixed the sounds up. I've heard the base, mitt, I call them out. It's like, oh, if I'd have taken my time, I would have gotten the two sounds right.
I can absolutely relate to that one, yes.
Especially in softball, right? Because every play at first is a whacker.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Ted, and we just want to thank you for your time and sitting down with us. You know, this is we're super grateful. So thank you. The last question is just to kind of wrap this up. You know, what are you doing here in Europe? What organizations are you representing, and how do people get involved with that?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I work for a group called Unlimited Potential Incorporated, which is UPI. You can go to upi.org and check it out. We're a baseball ministry of former players that go to administering to major league players, mostly in the States, but also abroad. We have a team, the catcher, Simon Gehring, I mentioned earlier, him and Mickey Weston, a former Orioles pitcher. They're currently in South Africa. We're going and we teach baseball, and we also share the gospel as we go. And it's a wonderful organization. You can check them out at upi.org. And also, our major league union has a charity called Umps Care. And if the guys go to umpscare.com, we do a lot of things, mostly in the States with hospital visits. And it's a wonderful way for us as we go to a city. Sometimes we have free time before the game. We'll go and visit the children's hospital. We take them Build-A-Bears, which are, stuffed toys that the kids love. So that's another organization that I'm proud to be a part of.
Wonderful. Again, Ted Barrett, Major League umpire over here doing umpire workshops currently in Austria. If you keep following us on Instagram, we'll publish the next time these things happen. And we're just super grateful for you stopping by. So, Ted, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Pat, thank you, and have a nice time in Austria.
Thank you. I already am.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah.